Hello, everyone. We are going to start talking and thinking about color. And we are going to start with just basic color symbolism before we get into mixing color and investigating color or hue. So this is Roy G. Biv. This stands for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. These are the official 7 colors of the rainbow. So, what is color? We have to ask ourselves this question because it is actually very complicated. And the answer would be is you can think of color in 2 different ways. So, color can be made up of pigments, which is what our paint is made out of, and it is also what a lot of natural material is made out of, such as plants and insects and as well as any like earthy elements as far as clay. And also, color is molecular color agents on the surface of an object. So that's a scientific look at it as well. So this is color symbolism, and I just wanted to create this disclaimer for this presentation. The color symbolism we are looking at in this presentation is based on my own personal bias as it relates to my own language and culture. Color symbolism varies from person to person and region to region. One of a famous philosopher, a psychologist, he wrote about how color is various between cultures of people. So some cultures wouldn't have the words for all the colors as we know, such as pink, for example. But he did mention something that is very interesting is that every single culture, every single human race has a word for the color red, black, and white. Um, so that's just interesting to start. It's something to kind of plant a seed in your head to think about how color does vary by cultures, and the meanings can vary by cultures too, except for I do believe, in my personal opinion, red. So red is symbolic for blood, flesh, flags, evilness, the devil, stopping, love, marriage, and jealousy. I think maybe the reason this discovery by Carl Jung about how red is there is a word for red across every single culture has to do with our blood. Um, Everybody can identify red, even I believe those who are colorblind can still see red as well. So there's also a lot of theory with red being in the every flag, almost every flag of every country has some red in it. Maybe it has something to do with how we all have red blood, which is there's always a big conversation between red and blue because our blood is actually blue inside of our bodies, and when it gets oxygenated, it becomes red as it leaves our body. Um, Red is also can be very striking. It can represent anger, which I forgot to put on here. It's it actually is people who own restaurants say to not put any sort of red around because it makes people less hungry. There's a psychology around that. So that's just a little to begin. So red, and then the next one up is orange. Orange is a color that can be symbolized and associated with power, bargaining, danger, fruit, virtue, and vice. I think of orange as it is associated with danger because it is commonly used for like street traffic, for street road cones, the orange cones in the street that direct you, or the crossing guard who wears an orange an orange jumpsuit, or not jumpsuit, an orange vest, so that you can see that they're there so they don't get hit. Inmates also wear orange. Inmates also wear orange because it makes them easier to see. Orange is a very vibrant color, so people are able to see the security, the officers are able to see their inmates a lot more easy. So that's quite interesting as well. Orange is also a common color um, within institutions, like as far as interior design goes. I notice this a lot within schools, that there's always like big splotches of orange everywhere, which I think does have to do with some sort of device of power. And orange can also signify virtue and vice. That is pretty cultural, um, and do want you to be able to decide if you agree or disagree with any of this too. And then we have yellow. Yellow symbolizes joy, attention grabbing, sunshine, gold, entrepreneurialism. You know what I'm talking about, and nature. So, oftentimes, I do agree that yellow is associated with joy. People choose this color quite often for like pediatric offices for children. I definitely think that it's used very much for in children's interior spaces to help enliven them. It is intention grabbing. I always think of the striking visual of a black and white or black and yellow bee. And also it's really this is an interesting presentation because of there's also that song Black and Yellow. There's things that come up culturally as our culture grows and changes, that does change the way colors are symbolized as well. Of course, sunshine, gold. There's a lot of different hues of gold. There's greenish golds, there's reddish golds, but they definitely, gold is associated, I think, primarily and foremost with yellow, which goes into this word entrepreneurialism. I think that it's associated as far as making money, stacking cash, making coin. And I also think that gold is assimilated with nature, or yellow is assimilated with nature, even more so gold. Yellow, especially, is associated with nature when it is paired with green, which is next in the rainbow. Green can symbolize envy, nature, peace, luck, money, and greed. Of course, there's a very old saying that's one would be green with envy. I think that has to do with the sort of capitalistic structure that we live in, trying to make money, make it to the top of the pyramid, and so on and so forth in the rat race. Nature, as I said before, of course, we got to associate green with nature. I think that's be pretty evident for most cultures that have green in their nature landscape, but that's not also true if you're thinking about people who live in desert countries or more tundra type countries. And then peace, I associate green with peace because I find it to be rather neutral. It is the color that is right in the middle of the rainbow. So there is something very neutral about it. Therapists recommend that we take walks in green areas to feel a calm state of mind. Of course, there's St. Patrick's Day, so we think about luck, we think about leprechauns, that whole thing associated with Ireland. And then we think of money and greed because of money being printed on green cash. But who knows, maybe in another 30 years, when cash money disappears and everything is completely digital, who knows how the color green could change in our cultural subconscious. And then we have blue. Blue is, I even have to take notes for blue because blue is a very interesting color. So it's commonly associated with sky, the water, sustenance, or poison. It's a spiritual color. It can also, it's the opposite of red, as far as I said, as restaurateurs, they use a lot of blue in the restaurant because there's a psychological research that says blue can make you hungry. And it also is associated with comfort. And I believe that's really one of my personal opinions, because I feel very grounded when I can see a blue sky and blue water. There's something comforting. I feel held. Um, so blue is really rare in nature, and that's why there is a dialogue with like sustenance and poison. So there are some blueberries that you can eat, and there are also some blueberries that will kill you, that are poisonous and kill you. So blue is a tricky one. Um, so blue doesn't exist on that molecular level on the surface, like I talked about how we think about color on the molecular surface or as pigment. So it's really uncommon for blue to exist on a molecular surface in nature. So insects and flowers only look blue because they are made up of pigments which look blue when the light is reflected off of them. And the sky, it looks blue because gases and particles in the Earth's atmosphere scatter sunlight in all different directions. And blue light is scattered more than other colors because it travels at a shorter and smaller wavelength. Mountains are also perceived as blue from far away. When we're walking around inside them, of course, they look like made up of rocks and colors, and also green trees. But mountains are blue from far away due to a phenomena called the Rayleigh scattering, which rays of light impinge on small particles to be scattered in various directions. The atmosphere of a mountain is laden with dust particles, water droplets, air molecules. All these things contribute to the scattering of light. The eyes then receive the blue scattered rays of sunlight to reflect the object itself. So blue is kind of actually a little bit of a mysterious color in the sense that it's really a scattering of particles, a scattering of light, a reflection of light. It isn't a color that exists on a molecular surface. The next color in the rainbow, next to blue, is indigo. Indigo is a dye. It's used in our denim. It's used in our jeans, or it originally was. I think they have a more synthetic dye like now. Um, Indigo is also associated with the subconscious. It's a very dark color, and not to be confused with navy blue. Indigo is just a very deep color that is positioned in between blue and the next color, which is violet. I think it represents vastness, honesty, and dignity. This is all kind of just made up off of a little bit of research that I've done. There isn't really a lot of color symbolism based around indigo. There's some, I think that vastness kind of like speaks to a little bit of mystery involving indigo, because not a lot of people do. Most people actually refer to indigo as navy blue, which is almost black. So maybe that's why these other terms that I researched are associated with it. But I mean, if you feel free to email me if indigo has a different meaning to you, or your culture or your identity, because that'd be interesting to know. And then the last color of the rainbow is violet. Love purple, but it's not purple, it's violet. That's the correct term, excuse me. Violet can symbolize nature, majesty, royalty, mystery, and magic. So, I mean, I definitely always think about the book The Color Purple, as it's associated with, there's sort of like a spiritual essence to it when you are come by it in nature, kind of jumps out at you. It's a majestic color. Picture old paintings of like King Henry VIII wearing purple velvet garments is something that I can always think about. Red and green are also very majestic colors as well, especially violet, red, and green together. Very majestic, oh, and gold. Very majestic color scheme there. So that's also associated with royalty, obviously. Mystery, I do believe that it's associated with mystery. I think of like a lot of children's books where the like a wizard is always wearing like either a violet or indigo colored cloak, which also is associated with magic. And then we're going to step into the other common colors of our culture that are not in the rainbow, but this is pink. Pink is made up of red and white. Pink, to me, symbolizes genderness, cherubs, adolescence, innocence, floral, and bashfulness. I think of genderness when I think of pink because pink in like the 1950s was always associated for like little girls. There was definitely kind of a comeback with men wearing pink and being super proud of it and not feeling that sort of cultural permeation of feeling bad for wearing pink, like they were like somehow demasculinized for doing so. Um, which goes along with blue, but somehow I feel like pink gets grouped in more with genderness than blue does. Blue seems to be something that it's a more gender fluid color. I mean, it's a really interesting that a color could be gender fluid, but I think that this is a part of the social atmosphere that we live in today. So I think about cherubs because I do think about little little angels kind of flying around, something sort of baby-like. Um, I think of adolescence, which also correlates to innocence. Floral means any sort of decoration that has flowers. Definitely think of like pink flowers when I think of pink. And I think of bashfulness because of how white people with whiter toned skins blush. Um, and also, pink is, which I didn't write on here, but this is important to know that every human, no matter what color of your skin, we all have pink on the insides of our lips. And if you ever lose oxygen to your brain or you get a concussion and you get hurt, an EMT will, instead of checking the color of your face or body, they can actually flip down your lower lip and see if the pink inside of your lower lip is pink enough for you to be alive. If that pink is gone, then probably means that there's a health problem there. So, which is interesting because pink is also closely related to red as it's just white and red together. Um, and then there's brown. I associate brown with earthiness, decay. I think of eyes and I think of the human body. Of course, earthiness is, I feel like planet Earth is made up of various types of browns that can have different hues of red or yellow in them, amongst other colors. I think of decay, I think of rot. I also think of eyes, I think of brown eyes. I personally think of that maybe because I have brown eyes and also because almost I know a lot of people with brown eyes too. Brown eyes are very dominant in the gene pool. They say that one day, because brown eyes are so dominant in the gene pool, that one day everyone will have brown eyes. So I find that to be very interesting. And I also think of the human body. I think of different tones of browns and skins, and which also kind of relates to clay as well. I do ceramics, as you guys know, I talk about it. So I think about the browns of clay bodies and how they look like different skin tones. And then we have gray. So gray symbolizes neutrality, technology, mass appeal, exhaustion, and silver. Gray is a neutral color, so it's a good color to use to represent neutrality. I think of technology. I think of like Mac store just being really gray. which has a mass appeal to it. And I also think of exhaustion. Maybe it's because exhaust from a car has some a gray sort of tone, gray smogginess to it. Also, people go gray when they're tired and they're getting old, like me. And and then silver as well, which is pretty much the shiny cousin of gray. Or silver can have many tones of gray too. So then we get to black and white. So the question is, are black and white colors? This depends on who you ask. So a scientist who believes and would probably base their answer off of physics would say that black is not a color and white is. And that has to do with the way um, that this can go back to like Newton's color theory, which you're going to read about for your discussion. It should be in there. But so if white is a color, according to a scientist, it means that it is all the colors mixed together, all colors that are one. Black, according to a scientist, would be the absence of color. So if we turn off all the lights, we'd be sitting in blackness, there would be no more color anymore. This is based off of physics. Okay, so then you ask an artist, and the artist would probably disagree. Now, artists are constantly working with color. They're working with pigments. They're working on white canvases most of the time, or not most of the time. The white canvas is a common. You guys are also working on white paper. White is like the basis. It's like the background for what we work on. So an artist would probably disagree with the scientists, and they would probably say that black is a color because you can mix different colors to make black, but you can't mix up colors to make white. You can buy different whites from out of the tube. There's like a zinc white, a titanium white, but sometimes you just use the white of your canvas, the white of your paper to bring out the white that you, or the lighter highlights that you want to see in your imagery. And then you can make up black. Blacks can be made of opposite colors being mixed together, as well as a red and a black is like a really beautiful type of black too. There's all these different types of blacks. Even if you're using like a type of sumi ink is like you can build up, you can make more, like you can make a shade of black even blacker. So I think that for as someone who's super sensitive to color, I would say that black and white is a color in my personal opinion, because I think that like if I was to paint a painting of a white picket fence, I wouldn't just use the white canvas beneath. I would be considerate of all the colors that are reflecting off of the environment around the white picket fence. And the picket fence would have different tones of white in it. So I think white is a color, but I think it's a vast color. As the same way I think of black as a color, but I think it's a vast color, ones that I have to create and make to paint something or to paint light. So here we have our black square. So black is symbolic of darkness, absence of light, depression, depth, claustrophobia, monsters and gods. And also, when I was making this, I was thinking about the Black Lives Matter movement and the blackout square that everyone was doing after George Floyd died, which I thought how that's pretty interesting that we're living in a time when black, the color black has an even deeper meaning than it did before, especially just this black square or black swatch. So yeah, like I said, the absence of light, the darkness, blackness, the black color goes along with depression, in theory, I guess. Depth, because the farther things are away from you, the darker it becomes. Claustrophobia, because of right being trapped in a closet or something with the absence of light, I can associate with the color black. Monsters, and gods are associated with this. I think of a bunch of types of like uh, monsters and gods and illustrations I've seen that are like primarily sort of like straightforward and symbolic. And then, like I said, the Black Lives Matter movement. And then we have white, white on white. See, this is why an artist would probably say that white is not a color, because I just feel like I'm looking at a blank canvas right now. Anyways, so white symbolizes the sublime, pure light, a white picket fence, wholesomeness, virginity, cleanliness, peace, milk. So sublime is, I think that pure light kind of associates with sublime. The white picket fence, of course, is associated with wholesomeness and virginity. The cleanliness is something like white is associated with cleanliness because like hotels will use only white sheets to show that there is cleanliness in their hotel, because you don't go and find like a stain on your sheet, of course. And then peace, I think of like a white dove. And then milk, I think of milk, which kind of goes along with virginity too, right? So that's it on color symbolism, and I'll talk to you soon.